You know, we need to make sure that every organisation, every institution serves the interests of the British people. When they don't, we need to reform or sometimes to derogate, and when they do, we need to support and reinforce. I think that's a pretty simple pitch, actually, and politics needs to be ruthlessly focused on the interests of the British people. And that's exactly what I'm doing.
So you would be pursuing leaving the ECHR?
Look, I'm prepared to make any decision that is in the interests of the British people. I'm prepared to make any decision that recognises that situations have changed, that times have changed, and that organisations that we were once part of no longer work for us.
But it isn't Times readers who will choose the next leader. It's Conservative MPs and then the Tory members. Tom Tugendhat is here. Tom, good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
Very well, thank you. And congratulations to you putting your hat in the ring. Tell us your evaluation then, the problems you've got to solve. Why did your party lose the election?
Well, look, let's be clear, that was a pretty disastrous result for us a few weeks ago, and it was a disastrous result for the very simple reason that we failed to deliver and we lost the trust of the British people. And what we need to do now is to end the factional infighting that we've seen far too much of, focus on the interests of the British people, reunite the party, and make sure we regain that trust so that we can deliver the opportunity for the British people to have a choice of a Conservative government at the next election. Now, I've demonstrated that ability to deliver on operations in the military in Afghanistan and Iraq, and I've demonstrated it standing up for Britain against authoritarian dictators in Parliament, which, as you know, has got me sanctioned by China, Russia and Iran. And I've demonstrated it as Security Minister in Cabinet, you know, standing up for the interests of the British people and making sure that we're safe.
Just sort of admin question before we get into your sort of policy ideas. Have you got the support of enough people to be a nominee?
I do, yes, thank you.
OK, that's good. The list of people who are supporting you, your biggest competitor will be?
Oh, look, I am very, very pleased to be in a debate with many of my Conservative friends and colleagues. You know, these are people I've worked with over many years and have a lot of time for. I wouldn't be standing alongside them if I didn't. They're great people and they're real Conservative voices, but I'm offering something different. I'm offering that track record of delivery in the military, in Parliament and recently in government. And I'm offering an assessment that actually highlights where I think the challenge is, and this is fundamental to how we rebuild trust. We need to be honest with the British people. We have failed to deliver, and that's why we need to be absolutely focused.
So which
on delivering
pitch that one of your colleagues is going to offer up do you think is going to be the most enticing alternative for, let's say, the Conservative Party when they come to vote for you?
Well, look, that's really a question for you, isn't it? You're the political analyst. I'm trying to offer leadership, not analysis. What I'm trying to say is something different. What I'm trying to offer is that ability to reunite the Conservative Party, to make sure that we're able to rebuild that trust and deliver for the British people.
Okay,
but we can only do that if we come together and we end the factionalism, and that's what I'm trying to do.
Is leaving the ECHR going to be something that's going to unite the party?
Now, what's going to unite the party is being absolutely ruthlessly focused on the interests of the British people. And that's exactly the point I'm making. You know, we need to make sure that every organisation, every institution serves the interests of the British people. When they don't, we need to reform or sometimes to derogate, and when they do, we need to support and reinforce. I think that's a pretty simple pitch, actually, and politics needs to be ruthlessly focused on the interests of the British people. And that's exactly what I'm doing.
So you would be pursuing leaving the ECHR?
Look, I'm prepared to make any decision that is in the interests of the British people. I'm prepared to make any decision that recognises that situations have changed, that times have changed, and that organisations that we were once part of no longer work for us. Or, alternatively, that we're able to derogate from those areas which are throwing up those challenges, and we're able to reform those areas where we see opportunity. You know, I'm not the only one making this case. There are voices around Europe who are making this case too, and what we need to be doing is focusing on what's in the interests of the British people. And I'm afraid we've seen in the last few years that failure to deliver on migration, that failure to deliver in the interests of the British people has not just cost the Conservative Party many, many seats, but has actually made people less trusting of politics, and that's bad for the whole country.
Tom, you've got a challenge here because you need to try and appeal to the further right of the party. Further right than you, I think we'd both agree. We look at how many voters voted for reform. More voters under 30 voted for reform than for the Tories. How are you going to try and win around those in your party and the party membership who like the more right-leaning ideas when it comes to the public, you also need to appeal to, let's say, the voter who may felt, actually, the Conservatives don't represent me. Instead, I'm going to vote Lib Dem.
Well, look, you're absolutely right that this is about appealing across the spectrum. You talk about young voters. Actually, many more young voters are voting Green or Labour than are voting Reform, and we need to make sure we're delivering for everyone. And you talk about left and right, that's language of the past. We need to be focused on the future, because the reality is that what we're seeing in Britain today is people who've lost trust in politics. People have lost trust in the ability of politicians to deliver for what matters, and that's why I'm absolutely focused not on the language of the past but on the language of the future. How do we deliver? How do we make sure that young people have that start in life that we'd all expect, whether it's
I wonder how you're going to persuade the
starting
membership,
a family or buying a home. We need to make sure we're focused.
How are you going to persuade the membership that they don't need a lurch to the right? Because it could be that you end up with one of your colleagues, let's say Kemi Badenoch, and the membership, as we've seen when Rishi Sunak took on Liz Truss, tucked to the right.
Look, I'm afraid I don't recognise the terms. The reality is I'm a Conservative, other people standing are Conservatives, we're all Conservatives, and we're making Conservative arguments. And that's exactly what we need to do, because the reality is the Conservative Party is interested in Conservative values. They're interested in making sure we defend, that individual opportunity, that responsibility, that community and that family focused, those policies that deliver for everyone. Now, we need to make sure that that's where we're making the offer. And that's why, I have long stood up for Conservative values, whether it's voting against vaccine passports or resisting Rishi's attempts to raise national insurance contributions, because I think Conservative values and Conservative principles matter.
Is standing up for the environment a Conservative principle? I mean, David Cameron once pledged that he would run the greenest government ever. But there seems, in what you've written this morning, a reluctance to sort of stand by net zero in a way that Conservative government of David Cameron would have recognised.
No, that's not right. No, that's not right. Look at our track record on the environment. We have delivered. In recent years, we have delivered one of the greenest agendas in the world. We have reduced our carbon emissions while maintaining growth. But let's be honest with the British people. There are three things we've got to do. We've got to maintain energy security. And we know the cost if we fail. We saw the cost when the Ukraine war kicked off and energy prices forced many, many families into very, very difficult decisions over budgeting. And we know the cost that happens if you simply do not account for that energy security. Second, we need to make sure that the costs are right, and that's really difficult. We need to make sure that we're building the right infrastructure. And third, we need to make sure that we are reducing carbon emissions, but that's a global question. It is not right to reduce carbon emissions in the United Kingdom and reduce jobs in the United Kingdom only to increase them in China or other countries that are actually burning coal. We need to make sure we're actually looking at this holistically and not following the ideological approach that I'm afraid Ed Miliband is adopting, but actually deliver.
Well, I mean, if you are Prime Minister, which you're hoping...
That's exactly what I will do.
You're hoping to become Prime Minister. You've said that as well. You'll inherit GB Energy, which we've just had announced today. So what would you do with it?
Well, let's see what the Labour Party says it is, because at the moment all I can see is it's a branding exercise that's going to cost the British people hundreds of millions of pounds. I don't think that's in the interest of the British people, but let's see what they set out.
Final policy idea, the Rwanda bill, in terms of your sort of ideas and strategies, if you were then Prime Minister, would that be something that you'd resurrect?
Well, look, let's look at where we are in 4 years' time. We're 3 weeks into a 5-year period of opposition because we failed to deliver. What I'm going to be doing is listening to the British people so that we can regain the trust and offer the solutions that are so important to all of us.
So you're not ruling it out?
That in 5 years' time, look, I'm not ruling anything in or out. We've got 5 years to go. We've got to make sure that we have policies ready for the situations we find ourselves in 5 years' time. And I'm afraid I can't answer questions about the future like that. It simply doesn't work, and it wouldn't be honest to do so. So what I'm doing is I'm setting out an agenda based on Conservative values, and that means being accountable to the British people, making sure we're delivering for the British people, and making sure that we're listening to the British people so that we regain trust and we're able to deliver, and that's exactly what I'm going to do.
Tom Tugendhat, thank you very much, Conservative leadership candidate and the Shadow Security Minister.